It's known by those who live in Gaza as the world's largest open-air prison, and never has that been more true than right now.
Crucial life-saving supplies, including fuel, food and water, must be allowed into Gaza.
The population of Gaza really have nowhere to go.
Gaza is part of what's left of Palestine, carved up after World War II to give persecuted Jews a homeland. 41 kilometres long, 10 kilometres wide, it's wedged between Israel, Egypt and the Mediterranean Sea. The tiny enclave, one of two Palestinian territories, the other, the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Home to 2.3 million people, almost half of them children, it's one of the most densely populated places on the planet.
The vast majority of Palestinian territories were either ethnically cleansed or dispossessed. The Gaza Strip continues to be classified as occupied under international law, and the Israeli government continues to exert total control on the Gaza Strip.
Bordered by walls and fences, the Strip has been under blockade by Israel and Egypt since terror group Hamas seized power in Gaza in 2007. Israel heavily controlling the movement of goods and people in and out by land, sea and air.
This includes controlling how much Palestinian fishermen can access the sea. This also applies to construction material, food, water supply, electricity.
After 16 years of the crippling blockade, more than 80% of Gazans live in poverty. 95% don't have access to clean water.
From within Gaza, the blockade is perceived as collective punishment. Israel sees it as punishing Hamas.
Over the last decade and a half, Hamas has fought several devastating wars with Israel.
If there is a hell on earth, it is the lives of children in Gaza today.
This latest war, potentially the most destructive yet.
The people of Gaza are suffering collectively, and of course, not all of them support Hamas, so people are being punished in essence for something they don't support.
People are waiting for death at this point. It could either be a fast death that comes from an airstrike, or it can be a slow death that comes from starvation. We're losing contact with people one by one. They're simply just being cut off from the world.
There's probably nowhere on earth that captures the hopelessness of the situation, right? Because what you have here is kind of two invincible narratives. One that says this blockade, the open-air prison line, it's an impossible way to live. It's collective punishment, and it will only trigger more violence because people who live like that will eventually lash out. On the other, saying, well, how can we have an open border or anything remotely close to that?
And Hamas is lobbing rockets.
Right. And the problem is, I've spoken to people in this job and just in my private life on opposite sides of the conflict, and I've never been able to find a way to penetrate those two narratives because they're kind of absolute, and you can't get one to address the other or acknowledge the other in any kind of way, and so it just feels like a stalemate. And the end result is the people who suffer, you see them.
Kids.
What are you going to
do? That just what gets me every time. The kids on both sides. They're still babies. It's just... Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah. And we're watching it from the other side of the world. So imagine the fear and terror and living it, it's just